It may be interesting to recall and note that any time the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, visits President Donald Trump of the United States of America, US, something strange or new does occur in the Middle East, either starting a new war or a new attack tactic is being deployed into the existing theater of war. This historical timeline of bilateral meetings between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump directly maps the introduction of increasingly aggressive military tactics in the Middle East. To start with, it may be recalled that after their campaign meeting on July 26, 2024, Israel executed an unprecedented cyberkinetic supply chain attack on September 17 and 18, 2024, by remotely detonating booby-trapped Hezbollah pages and walkie-talkies, a strange military tactics that kept almost everybody in the world talking. And after Netanyahu's inaugural visit to the White House on February 4, 2025, a breakdown in ceasefire negotiations led to the total collapse of the January Gaza truce and a massive, renewed ground reinvasion by late February 2025 began, following consecutive strategic summits on July 7 to 9, 2025. Joint forces of the US military and the Israel Defense Forces executed a high-intensity, 12-day dynamic air campaign featuring preemptive subterranean strikes directly hitting Iranian infrastructure, and in addition, following Trump and Netanyahu emergency winter bilateral meeting at Mar-a-Lago on December 29, 2025, regional hostilities escalated into an all-out, state-on-state comprehensive joint war against Iran that broke out on February 28, 2026, leading directly into the current theater of warfare that saw the killing of the Iran supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And on Friday, the Israeli government informed the general public that the Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has prepared to depart Israel on Monday for his next scheduled White House summit on Tuesday, July 28, 2026. According to the Office of the Prime Minister of Israel, at the invitation of US President Donald Trump, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will depart this coming Monday for a visit to Washington. During the visit, the Prime Minister will meet on Tuesday with President Trump at the White House and attend the funeral service for Senator Lindsey Graham, a friend of Israel. This visit is coming at a period US and Iran began new rounds of attacks and hostilities in the Middle East. The visit will mark the seventh formal meeting between Netanyahu and Trump since Trump returned to the White House in early 2025. Available information indicated that the White House and Israeli officials have been navigating intense bilateral discussions as President Trump weighs pivotal strategic options. These include whether to authorize a resumption of major combat actions and a broader joint military campaign alongside Israel, following 5 months of direct military conflict with Iran that has taken new twists since early July 2026. As massive military campaigns continued in the Middle East, US forces are aggressively enforcing a
We just decided to make this one of our plugin free because WordPress plugin directory does not permit us to sell our premium plugins, but only give us opportunity to advertise our premium plugins, and they demand that we must make our plugin or one of our plugin free, completely free for life. So we decided yesterday and this morning to submit one of our plugins that will be entirely free. It will also give millions of WordPress users opportunity to test the efficiency, the effectiveness, the quality and the uniqueness of our plugins. And this is the list of the high quality of plugins. We currently have over 40 plugins that we are still doing the legal and technical documentation. We have only released 2. So we hope that before this week runs out, we are going to release more of these plugins. We have plugins to address a lot of marketing issues, not only for news and all that. For you that run e-commerce, you run a business, you are looking for a digital licensing hub. We have already built that and we have test run it, and it's working perfectly effective. So it will be among the early plugins we will release, so that businesses across the world, you can be able to send your digital goods to your customer and have 100% full control of it. Even though somebody breach into your identifier and use your digital assets, this you have full control of it to deactivate or reactivate or approve, pending when you are satisfied that the person has met up with the monetary obligations. And this plugin is universal and globally. Anywhere you are in the world, all you just need to do is to check the payment store, the storefront, any of the e-commerce that can deliver digital goods, and the e-commerce, the currency support your country. Anywhere in the world, you can use this plugin. You can use it because we build this plugin without specifically narrowing it or limiting it to any storefront or limiting it to any specific AP. So it's between you and your client, and your own is to get confirmation from your payment store that yes, the client has made payment, and once the client make payment, the payment store will complete its duty of delivering the assets, the digital assets, to the client immediately.
Software engineering and media firm Osizuwa Konedo Limited has announced the global release of its new server layer database utility, the Osizuwa Konedo Dynamic Autoload Optimizer, version 2.1.0, engineered as a premium, high-value must-use (MU) plugin. The software addresses one of the most widespread yet invisible performance bottlenecks plaguing modern digital publishing: the accumulation of orphan configuration data within the core WordPress database structure. The software targets large-scale web architectures, news networks, corporate platforms, and search engine optimization (SEO) agencies that suffer from unexplainable mobile lag, high bounce rates, and random server crashes during traffic spikes. While traditional web optimization tools focus on front-end patches like file caching, CDN integration, and image lazy loading, the Osizuwa Konedo engine targets the server-side database configuration layers where initial loading speeds are decided. Every standard page request on a WordPress site initializes a database query that automatically reads every option row tagged for initialization and dumps it directly into the server's active RAM memory before web content or text grids can even render. This structural mechanism causes extreme back-end bloat over time. When web teams install, test, and subsequently delete heavy free plugins or third-party tracking tools, those modules leave behind massive rows of configuration footprints. Because WordPress does not purge these options upon deactivation, they remain in the system forever, forcing the server to load megabytes of dead software code on every single click, exhausting CPU threads and spiking time to first byte (TTFB) latency. The system bypasses this hidden crisis through a dynamic identification umbrella matrix. Upon manual activation, the algorithm maps the live site ecosystem, automatically identifying and safe listing core WordPress keys, active theme folder structures, child theme style sheets, and every active plugin directory prefix. This safeguards the site against database corruption. The engine then runs an automated database parse targeting unmapped, abandoned option keys exceeding an 8 kilobytes critical risk threshold, cleanly converting their status from auto-loading RAM targets to standard demand-only queries. The creation of the database tool was driven by the firm's real-world experiences running high-traffic news properties like Osizuwa Konedo.news, a heavy media network running continuous dual live stream video feeds, interactive currency calculation matrices, and intensive Google AdSense ad networks on individual pages embedding up to 200 high-resolution images. Testing has shown that unoptimized database autoload bloat can cause websites to completely freeze and time out under synthetic loading tests, even on premium cloud hosting frameworks. To maximize structural efficiency and maintain a zero-overhead footprint, the software introduces a proprietary, automated deactivatable connector engine that eliminates the need for manual FTP file renaming. Webmasters simply access the dedicated settings panel and toggle the native operating. Software engineering and media firm Osazuwa Konedo Limited has launched a specialized software bundle designed to fix traffic loss, broken layouts, and revenue drops caused by traditional WordPress optimization tools. The new software, named the Osazuwa Konedo Site Optimizer and Search Engine Optimization Dominance Suite, specifically tagged Osazuwa Konedo Strict Consent Jail, JS, Image and Robots Text Site Optimizer, target high-traffic digital publishers, news platforms, television stations, and e-commerce agencies globally, as it may be interesting to know that modern websites face a difficult trade-off between loading speed and monetization, as standard performance plugins routinely speed up pages by aggressively blocking heavy scripts, which inadvertently disables legal cookie consent banners, lowers ad viewability metrics, and blocks critical search engine index crawlers. The newly introduced server-level solution is engineered specifically to eliminate mobile layout delays, solve unused JavaScript bottlenecks, and dramatically improve Google Core Web Vitals scores without disrupting digital advertising streams or heavy live stream media nodes. The system completely bypasses traditional caching limits by functioning as a zero-overhead must-use plugin ecosystem that operates directly at the core server level to run automatically before standard plugins or themes load, clearing the main thread to maximize page load speeds while safeguarding monetization channels. Osazuwa Konedo, Chief Executive Officer of Osazuwa Konedo Limited, stated that most optimization tools on the market treat all scripts the same, which routinely kills publisher earnings on platforms like Ezoic, AdSense, Open Video and Humix. The suite was engineered from the firm's own experiences running high-traffic news properties like Osazuwa Konedo News, which features 2 continuous live stream video stations, floating widgets, and aggressive Google AdSense ads on a single page displaying 100 to 200 images without experiencing layout stutters or sudden visual jumps. Konedo added that the framework protects monthly ad paychecks and search rankings by organizing scripts on an automated, human-verified timeline, forcing heavy media assets and tracking pixels to wait until the core content loads flawlessly. The core architecture relies on an integrated multiple engine matrix that separates itself from generic optimization modules by operating directly at the server code layer. A 4-tier script orchestration engine utilizes human traffic validation to run legal privacy frameworks instantly, ensuring out-of-the-box compatibility with the Interactive Advertising Bureau Europe Transparency and Consent Framework by automatically executing global consent management platforms like Cookiebot, OnNetTrust, and User-Centrics with zero loading lag. Simultaneously, the matrix holds back non-essential background advertising arrays and heavy widgets for 3 seconds to drop total blocking time to 0 milliseconds upon the first paint. This is supported by the Precise Image Delay Engine, known as Clean Snap version 3.7, which replaces traditional fade animations with a zero-flicker model that instantly abducted 40-year-old Omotsiri Syrian Ibori, née Ben, and her 7-year-old son, Williams Ibori Jr., have safely broken free from their captors yesterday evening after a 5 million Naira's ransom payment was delivered secretly to an anonymous drop-off location, completely shifting the narrative of a tragic daylight ambush by heavily armed gunmen that had originally plunged Ogara, the ancestral home of former Delta State Governor, Chief James Onanefe Ibori, into intense fear and tension, highlighting a terrifying surge in local insecurity, as this victim is the youngest widow of the respected Ibori family patriarch, retired soldier, and former Onugbogodo of Oharefe, High Chief William Boyi Agbakanyo Ibori, who was born on February 2, 1942, and passed away from a heart attack at age 76 on July 11, 2018, leaving behind his wives, Mrs. Elizabeth and Omotsiri Syrian Ibori, alongside 9 children and 18 grandchildren, while her father, Chief Lucky Ben, recently confirmed exclusively to Osasuwakonedo News Media that his daughter is currently 40 years old, which clarifies historical timelines and corrects past social media rumors by establishing that she was approximately 32 years old when her high-profile traditional wedding ceremony was celebrated in Oharefe on Saturday, March 17, 2018, just 4 months before her husband's demise, meaning this high-profile abduction has severely worsened local anxiety by coming on the heels of another recent violent incident in Ogara where local farmer Mr. Vincent Adoja was brutally murdered on his farm and his wife kidnapped for ransom, forcing Ethiopia West Local Government Council Chairman Honorable Chris Onigba to vow an aggressive security crackdown as terrified residents demand urgent, decisive tactical intervention from the police command to halt the growing criminal epidemic, though a wave of deep relief has swept through the family space after a close source confirmed the breakthrough directly via an urgent text message stating that they have gone to drop the ransom and she has been released to them, following aggressive backdoor negotiations that forcefully broke down the heavily armed gang's initial staggering 150 million naira's ransom demand. The victims regained their freedom yesterday night after the family successfully delivered a 5 million naira's ransom payment to the kidnappers. The breakthrough was confirmed through an urgent message sent by a close family source to Osasuwakonedo, expressing immense relief as the ordeal came to an end. "My wife just sent me this. They have gone to drop the ransom and she has been released to them," the family source stated. The armed gang had initially slammed a staggering 150 million naira's ransom demand on the family shortly after the violent ambush. However, tense negotiations over the last few days successfully brought the demand down to 5 million naira's, which was physically delivered to a designated drop-off point before the victims were handed back over to their relatives. Both victims are currently being reunited with their family members. This high-profile kidnapping occurs amidst apparent sharp decline in public safety within the Ethiopia West local government area. Tragic daylight abduction of 40-year-old Omotsiri Syrian Ibori, née Ben, and her 7-year-old son, William Ibori Jr., by heavily armed gunmen has plunged Ogara, the ancestral home of former Delta State Governor, Chief James Onanefe Ibori, into intense fear and tension, highlighting a terrifying surge in local insecurity, as this victim is the youngest widow of the respected Ibori family patriarch, retired soldier, and former Unubrogodo of Oharefe, High Chief William Boyi Agbekanya Ibori, who was born on February 2, 1942, and passed away from a heart attack at age 76 on July 11, 2018, leaving behind his wives, Mrs. Elizabeth and Omotsiri Syrian Ibori, alongside 9 children and 18 grandchildren, while her father, Chief Lucky Ben, recently confirmed exclusively to Osasuwakonedo News Media that his daughter is currently 40 years old, which clarifies historical timelines and corrects past social media rumors by establishing that she was approximately 32 years old when her high-profile traditional wedding ceremony was celebrated in Oharefe on Saturday, March 17, 2018, just 4 months before her husband's demise, meaning this high-profile abduction has severely worsened local anxiety by coming on the heels of another recent violent incident in Ogara where local farmer Mr. Vincent Adoja was brutally murdered on his farm and his wife kidnapped for ransom, forcing Ethiopia West Local Government Council Chairman Honorable Chris Onigba to vow an aggressive security crackdown as terrified residents demand urgent, decisive tactical intervention from the police command to halt the growing criminal epidemic. Close family sources confirmed to our correspondent that the victims, the wife of the late High Chief Williams Boyi Agbekanya Ibori and their 7-year-old son, Williams Ibori Jr., were intercepted last week Wednesday and bundled away by kidnappers on their way to Ogara. The victims have now spent 9 agonizing days in captivity. According to insider family sources, the criminal ring initially demanded a staggering 150 million nairas ransom for their release. However, following frantic negotiations, the kidnappers slashed the demands to 5 million nairas. Despairing relatives revealed that the family is still struggling to raise the 5 million nairas sum to secure the freedom of the mother and child. The late husband of the abducted woman, High Chief Williams Ibori, was the revered Unabrogodo, traditional spokesman of Oharefe in the Ogara Kingdom. A retired soldier and a member of the Delta State Advisory and Peace-Building Council, he passed away in 2018. This direct attack on his immediate family underscores a dangerous breakdown of security in the Ethiopia West local government area, spearheading fear that no one is safe. Just days ago, on Monday, June 29, 2026, a brutal attack occurred on a farm in Ogara. A local farmer, Mr. Vincent Adoja, was ambushed and brutally murdered by armed assailants between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. while working on his land. The attackers butchered Mr. Adoja on the spot before forcefully carting away his wife into the forest. Africa Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEJ, has expressed deep concern over the acquittal of former Nigerian Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Dizani Alison Madueke, by a United Kingdom court, describing the verdict as a troubling moment for the global fight against corruption, illicit financial flows (IFFs), and impunity, a statement that follows the June 17, 2026, ruling at the Southwark Crown Court in London, where a jury cleared Alison Madueke of all 6 bribery charges brought against her by the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, after a 5-month trial and 46 hours of deliberation, while her co-defendants, oil executive Olutimbo Oyinde and her brother, Doya Gama, were also acquitted, bringing a dramatic end to a saga that began more than a decade ago, a development that prompted ANEJ to take immediate action today, June 23, 2026, by launching a critical 2-day capacity building workshop in Abuja in collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, a body domiciled within the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, SQML, an arm of the EFCC, to aggressively equip civil society organizations, CSOs, with the necessary tools to track, combat, and dismantle these very same illicit financial flows across Nigeria. Alison Madueke served as Nigeria's powerful oil minister from 2010 to 2015 and was the first female president of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Her tenure was immediately hit by controversy when former Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN Governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi alleged that $20 billion in oil revenue had gone missing under her watch. In May 2015, just as the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan was handing over power to Muhammadu Buhari, Alison Madueke left Nigeria for London. By October 2015, the UK's NCA arrested her on suspicion of bribery and money laundering, seizing her passport and sparking a 13-year international investigation. For years, Alison Madueke's legal team fiercely resisted attempts by Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to extradite her back to Abuja to face separate corruption charges. Her prolonged stay in the UK was repeatedly defended on critical medical grounds. Her lawyers disclosed that she was diagnosed with triple-negative cancer, describing it as the most aggressive form of breast cancer. Over the decade, her defense stated that she underwent multiple major surgeries and extensive chemotherapy treatments in London hospitals, leaving her at one point in a coma due to medical complications. These health battles, combined with the extreme complexity of cross-border financial tracking, left her on continuous UK bail for 8 years before she was formally charged in 2023. Despite prosecutors presenting evidence that oil contractors funded a life of luxury for her in London, including spending £2 million at Harrods, securing private jet flights, and occupying high-end Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo has said the state government will set up special court for criminal proceedings in line with the existing laws for suspected secret cult members and kidnappers to be conducted within 2 or 3 weeks maximum. and if anyone is found guilty and sentenced to death accordingly, he will sign the death warrant and bring the condemned criminal or criminals to popular Ring Road area in Benin City for public execution so that such action will serve as deterrent to others. The governor, who probably have a good working relationship with one of the former governors of the state that started the recent execution of condemned criminals, Adams Oshiomhole, made this known on Thursday when he visited the headquarters of the Edo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force, wherein some suspected kidnappers allegedly behind the shooting and abduction of a woman at a popular vegetable market along Airport Road in Benin City last Sunday were paraded before the governor and the press. According to the governor, "I will set up a special court to try cultists and kidnappers within 2 or 3 weeks, and if found guilty, I would have no regret to sign their warrants. They would be executed at the Ring Road for others to learn a lesson. Don't take my simplicity for granted." For the record, the last time death warrant was signed and condemned criminals executed in Edo State took place around 6 a.m. on December 23, 2016, few weeks after the then governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, took over power and was then still in good working relationship with ex-governor Adams Oshiomhole. 3 death row inmates were executed by hanging, namely, Ogbomoro Omaregi, Apostle Ijin, and Mark Omasohota, and the execution took place at the Oko prison of the Nigerian Correctional Service. The inmates had originally been sentenced to death by military tribunals under the robbery and firearms decree during the era of military rule in Nigeria. Godwin Obaseki carried out the executions despite condemnation from human rights groups, such as the Legal Defense and Assistance Project, LEDAP, who thus petitioned the governor for a stay of execution, saying, "These earmarked prisoners were sentenced by military tribunals under the Robbery and Firearms Special Provisions Decree 1971 as amended, in which there was no right of appeal. We have filed an appeal pending at the Court of Lagos seeking order that these prisoners have right of appeal under the 1999 Constitution. Death penalty is not universally prohibited, but the second optional protocol to the United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights on prohibition of the use of the death penalty asks state parties to amend their laws to abolish death as sentence for crime. Not all states have ratified the protocol. To sign a treaty does not bind the state until it is ratified. Nigeria has not signed it. It would be recalled that before the 2016 last execution of condemned criminals in the state, the immediate past and first execution in Edo State since Nigeria returned to democratic rule in 1999 occurred on June 24, 2013, when former Governor Adams Oshiomhole signed the warrants to hang 4 inmates, Chima Ejiofor, Daniel Nsofa, Osarenwinda Eguokan, and Richard Agagu, at the Benin City Custody. It was a double victory for the Nigerian North American diaspora community last week as the Ugola and Omaregi families celebrated 2 standout scholars, Miss Ajiroghene Miracle Ugola at York University and Miss Ivie Marianne Omaregi, who studied at Brock University, graduating with first-class honors from the top Canadian universities, as the milestone achievements were anchored by a massive cross-border comrades reunion party that drew family, professionals, and community leaders from across Canada and the United States. The academic festivities officially commenced on June 12, 2026, at the York University graduation ceremonies in Toronto, where Miss Ajiroghene Miracle Ugola achieved a monumental milestone by graduating with first-class honors in computer science. Miss Ajiroghene Miracle Ugola, daughter of prominent human rights activist, Reverend David Ugola, and diaspora figure, Mrs. Ngozi Ugola, clinched first-class honors in computer science. Her feat was celebrated by attendees as a masterclass in determination, intellectual grit, and a shining example for women in STEM fields. Mrs. Ngozi Ugola said her daughter, Ajiroghene's outstanding degree is the culmination of years of intense dedication, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Friends and family at the reunion party described the scholar as exceptionally resilient, focused, and intellectually driven, saying, "She distinguished herself in one of the most competitive fields on campus." Adding, "As she transitions into the professional space, she is poised to make significant waves in technology, innovation, and global digital transformation. Sharing the academic spotlight was Miss Ivie Marianne Omoregui, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Steve Omoregui, who graduated with first-class honors in nursing from Brock University. In recognition of her stellar character, academic record, and community impact, Omoregui was also awarded the prestigious Spirit of Brock Medal, a high-level distinction celebrating her campus leadership and commitment to service. The double milestone brought together notable diaspora figures and community pillars, including civil society leader Comrade David Ugola, Jude Mofunai and his wife, Edna, engineer Richard Amode and his wife, Barbara, surveyor Efik, and Afosa Akanjide Kiyode Iasere. Following the formal university ceremonies, the Omoregui family hosted a grand reception in Toronto featuring vibrant music, exceptional hospitality, and intercessory prayers led by engineer Amode. The event transformed into a true reunion of comrades, as guests traveled across several Canadian provinces and US borders to stand in solidarity with the families. We give ultimate praise, honor, and glory to God Almighty for His abundant grace, guidance, and favor throughout this academic journey, the families said in a joint statement. These achievements serve as shining examples of what focus and discipline can accomplish. We are immensely proud as our daughters step into their respective professional careers. According to the renowned global human rights activist, Reverend David Ugola, the atmosphere on the campus was vibrant and inspiring as proud parents, family members, and friends. Barely 48 hours after a serving police officer on May 25, 2026 at Uelu area of Agida quarters in Benin City tear gas a resident to death, Matthew Akubo, a tricycle rider who is also said to be an ex-police officer of an elderly age. A more devastating tragedy was apparently averted on May 27, 2026 at the Samuel Ogbomodia Stadium during the 2026 Children's Day celebration when some security operatives used pepper spray on school children who came for the celebration, an action capable of causing death, but the chief medical director, Edo Specialist Hospital, Dr. Antonia Njoku denied and dismissed the claims that about 5 children died as a result of the incident, and the Edo command of the Nigeria police force in a press statement failed to state if there was any death casualty or not, but stated that 4 persons including the seller of the pepper spray chemical substance have been arrested and detained in connection with the Children's Day incident, adding that the policeman who caused the death of the tricycle rider has been in detention waiting to be arraigned for possible act of murder. Our research study shows that a less lethal weapon of chemical substances like tear gas and pepper spray may be seen as an act of deliberate murder or attempted murder if used on a closed range, enclosed environment like hall, big or small, because the chemical substances from our assessment are meant only to be used on a long-range open-air outdoor spaces where people have alternatives means to run and leave the contaminated areas, and in line with global standard on the use of the chemical substances. Tear gas is never meant to be used on vulnerable populations or individuals with medical conditions, as international bodies like the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, and health organizations warn it can cause permanent injury, severe complications, or death. In addition, the chemical causes instant airway constriction that can trigger fatal respiratory failure in people with asthma or COPD, a severe risk that prompted the American Thoracic Society, ATS, to call for a total moratorium on its use, because, simultaneously, the intense physical stress can induce cardiac arrest in those with heart disease, as documented by Physicians for Human Rights, PHR, and according to strict deployment standards from Amnesty International, infants and young children face significantly higher risks because their developing lungs breathe faster, and heavy gas vapors settle near the ground. Pregnant individuals face severe risks of premature labor or miscarriage, a danger highlighted in field reports by National Nurses United and reproductive toxicology data published by the National Institutes of Health, NIH. Also, the elderly suffer prolonged tissue damage due to a reduced physical ability to flee. And finally, the American Lung Association warns that people with eye conditions, especially contact lens wearers, can suffer chemical burns and permanent vision loss from trap toxins, though legally, while the Chemical Weapons Convention, CWC permits domestic law enforcement usage, the UN guidance on less lethal weapons explicitly dictates that police operations must give special consideration. Borno State Governor, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum may have given a clearer picture and addressed some fundamental issues in the press release issued by the Nigerian Army on Saturday that caused mixed reactions among members of the public, especially Borno youths under the umbrella body of Borno South Youth Alliance. Bossia, who had condemned the military for saying in the press release that its men rescued 360 out of the 416 women and children held hostage by the Boko Haram terrorists based on intelligence-driven efforts that made the terrorists to flee and abandon their victims upon citing the superior power of the men of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, AFN, with some of the terrorists arrested, but the state governor, Babagana Zulum, while speaking during his assessment visit to Pulka community on Monday, said 434 victims out of the total numbers of people kidnapped early this year in Ngosh community by the Boko Haram terrorists have regained freedom, specifically stating that 357 captives walked free in the latest coordinated effort. Other captives have been released in phases over the preceding months, bringing the total number of freed captives to 434. We had reported that youths in Borno State under the umbrella body of Borno South Youth Alliance, Bossia has insisted that the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did nothing to secure the release of the 416 women and children held hostage by Boko Haram terrorists for more than 90 days. They were taken into the bush since March 2026. Also, the youth group dismissed and rejected the report of the Nigerian army, who had alleged that its men rescued 360 out of the 416 people held hostage through intelligence-driven efforts, saying they have an audio record of the conversation they had with the Boko Haram terrorists on Friday, June 5, 2026, before the Boko Haram terrorists decided to release the captives willingly, adding, if they paid ransom, they should come out and tell Nigerians, which we have the full details if ransoms was paid or not, as Senator Ali Ndume automatically started thanking President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Is there something Nigerians need to know that is hidden? It may be recalled that we have reported that barely a day after President Donald Trump of the United States of America, the USA announced the killing of Abu Bilal al-Minuki, the second in command of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, in a joint operation with Nigeria soldiers in Borno State. A new video of the abducted 416 women and children in Boko Haram captivity has been released, in addition to a gory video earlier released by the terrorists wherein they beheaded almost 6 men who the insurgents said tried to escape among the kidnapped victims. This had led to public outcry and demonstrations. But according to Punch newspaper, protesters are reportedly denied the rights to protest in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, saying the army reportedly deployed tanks and heavily armed personnel to Filling Polo, the venue of the recent planned protest, forcing the demonstrators to withdraw. Quoting Somela, youths in Borno State under the umbrella body of Borno South Youth Alliance, Bossia has insisted that the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did nothing to secure the release of the 416 women and children held hostage by Boko Haram terrorists for more than 90 days. They were taken into the bush since March 2026. Also, the youth group dismissed and rejected the report of the Nigerian army, who had alleged that its men rescued 360 out of the 416 people held hostage through intelligence-driven efforts, saying they have an audio record of the conversation they had with the Boko Haram terrorists on Friday, June 5, 2026, before the Boko Haram terrorists decided to release the captives willingly, adding, if they paid ransom, they should come out and tell Nigerians, which we have the full details if ransoms was paid or not, as Senator Ali Ndume automatically started thanking President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Is there something Nigerians need to know that is hidden? It may be recalled that we have reported that barely a day after President Donald Trump of the United States of America, the USA announced the killing of Abu Bilal al-Minuki, the second in command of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS in a joint operation with Nigeria soldiers in Borno State. A new video of the abducted 416 women and children in Boko Haram captivity has been released in addition to a gory video earlier released by the terrorists wherein they beheaded almost 6 men who the insurgents said tried to escape among the kidnapped victims. This had led to public outcry and demonstrations, but according to Punch newspaper, protesters are reportedly denied the rights to protest in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, saying, the army reportedly deployed tanks and heavily armed personnel to Filling Polo, the venue of the recent planned protest, forcing the demonstrators to withdraw, quoting Samela Kaigama, leader of the protesters, as saying, the atmosphere created by the military deployment made it impossible for citizens to continue with the demonstration, that the development is deeply disturbing in a constitutional democracy. It may also be recalled that we had reported that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria may have kept mute since more than 48 hours a faction of the Boko Haram terrorists showed off 416 people, mostly women and children, kidnapped and held hostage when the members of the Jama'atu Ahli Sunnah Lidawati wal Jihad, JAZ, launched a large-scale combat actions between 4th to the 6th of March 2026 against the men of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, AFN, overran the Africa country military base at Ngosh, killing several soldiers, a figure the Nigeria Authority disputed to be 14 after several reports indicated that more than 40 soldiers were killed during the attack, in addition to more than 100 civilians including Chief Imam of Ngosh alongside the community elders killed during the coordinated attacks that lasted days at Ngosh community in Gwoza local government area of Borno State. During the attacks, numbers of people were also taken hostage by the insurgents, with speculations indicating that the hostages. Lebanon is a sovereign country that has been a founding member of the United Nations since 1945. But, on several occasions, Israel has made an attempt to be in control of some areas of the sovereign nation, Lebanon, which is a small country of approximately 10,500 square kilometers, out of which, about 3,000 square kilometers are perhaps currently under the control and capture of Israeli armed forces since the State of Israel began the War of Redemption in 2025. A military operation targeting Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon, which the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, in a nationwide video broadcast on Sunday, said, over 8,000 Hezbollah fighters have been killed, ordered Israeli troops to expand more into Lebanon and commended men and women of the Israel Defense Forces of retaking or recapturing Beaufort, a 900-year-old castle city in Lebanon that perched on a high ridge overlooking the Litani River Valley with a good tactical and strategic military viewpoint over southern Lebanon, the western Bekaa Valley and northern Israel. The highly valued military fortress was previously occupied by Israel between 1982 and year 2000, and its reoccupation by Israel on Saturday night has triggered emergency United Nations Security Council meeting. According to the French Foreign Minister, Jean-Noël Barrot, France has called for emergency UN Security Council meeting over Israel expansion into more Lebanon's territory, stating to BFM TV News Network on Sunday that while France recognizes Israel's right to self-defense, nothing can justify the continuation of Israeli military operations in Lebanon and its ever deeper occupation of Lebanese territory. And Israel Defense Forces, IDF, in a statement on Sunday via its social media handles, said, these are photos from the precise IDF operation in the Beaufort Ridge and Wadi Saluki area in southern Lebanon. IDF troops located weapons in the village of Zortar al-Shakia, further proof of Hezbollah's presence inside civilian areas in southern Lebanon. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the nationwide broad said, and in quotes, that, last night, our heroic fighters captured the Beaufort Castle. They proudly raised the flag of the State of Israel and the flag of the Golani Brigade there. I remind you that 44 years ago, This place was a symbol of a heroic battle by our fighters, but it was also a symbol of deep division among us. Today, we return to Beaufort differently. We returned united, determined, and stronger than ever. I spoke with the fighters on the northern border on Friday. They told me, "Tell the people of Israel what we are doing here." Prime Minister, the public doesn't know what achievements we have made. Well, since the beginning of the War of Redemption we have eliminated 8,000 Hezbollah terrorists. Since Operation Roaring Lion 3,000. In the past month alone 700. This is more than everyone we eliminated during the Second Lebanon War. I have instructed the IDF to expand the incursion in Lebanon. Our forces have crossed the Litani River. They took dominant terrain. They captured the Beaufort Ridge. And now my information from the Office of the Special Advisor to the Nigerian President, Bayo Onanuga, has shown apparent strong indications that the federal government under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may use the act of trumped-up allegation to harass, intimidate, arrest and detain one of the president anti-2027 re-election activists who is also the president and founder of the Ratel movements, Martins Vincent Otts aka Ibori, following a widely circulated acclaimed leaked telephone voice record of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wherein the president was portrayed to have made statements capable of causing anarchy in the country, instigating and inciting the people against the president in a manner that can collapse the government and cause uncontrollable deaths. This, the presidential spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, seems to have wrongly or deliberately attributed the dissemination of the acclaimed leaked telephone voice record to Veridakman in a tweet the presidential spokesperson issued via X social media platform at about 11 a.m. on Wednesday morning, which, the presidential spokesperson said, "This VDM needs to face the weight of the law for being the conveyor and disseminator of a fake audio of President Tinubu. This is a clear case of an egregious abuse of the social media platform." A careful study of some news media reports over the acclaimed leaked telephone audio record shows some of the media attributed the dissemination and the origin of the acclaimed leaked telephone record to Veridakman, but none of the media companies was able to satisfy the basic principles or standards of news writing and publishing, which requires the media companies to provide or state when and where Veridakman disseminated such information, an action that shows there may be high-level conspiracy to arrest and keep the anti-government activist in a perpetual detention till after 2027 general elections with possible trumped-up allegations of treasonable count charges or alleged acts to endanger national security. For the purpose of clarity, trumped-up allegation, according to Cambridge Online Dictionary, it is an allegation that is deliberately based on false information so that someone will be accused of doing something wrong and punished. Our investigation indicates that a video published by Veridakman via his Instagram account on Tuesday, May 26, 2026 about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu 2023 pre-election campaign promises, wherein the president had said if he does not give Nigerians stable power or electricity supply in his first 4 years in office, the people should not vote for him for the second time. The video published by Veridakman while in China seems to be the one suspicious mischief makers altered and inserted the acclaimed leaked telephone voice record of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to create apparent false and misleading information capable of causing anarchy in the country with obvious intention to give the government the opportunity to harass, intimidate, arrest and detain the anti-government activist, Veridakman till after the 2027 general elections. Verbatim, in quotes, Sahara reporters reported that the Nigerian presidential aide, Bayo Onanuga, has lashed out at social media influencer, Martins Vincent Otts, popularly known as VDM, over the circulation
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.